After a volatile day of trading for markets and for Tesla, at one point today, Tesla's stock was up 5%, and then all hell broke loose, and the stock dropped to almost negative 2%, and then recovered to close the trading day up about 4%. The S&P also hit a technical correction, being down 10% from all-time highs at the lowest point today, upon almost immediately bouncing at that point, I will tell you. Well, in the process of all of that, Elon Musk dropped some bombshell news. Elon Musk just announced that Tesla is going to double vehicle output in the United States within the next 2 years.
Look at cars.
I have an announcement to make that's very helpful.
You mentioned the Ontario.
I want to say, as a function of the great policies of President Trump and his administration, and as an act of faith in America, Tesla is going to double vehicle output in the United States within the next 2 years. Double.
Big deal. By the way, he makes one car. This one I don't understand. This one I don't want, but that's okay. Without a steering wheel, it comes out next year, right?
Yes.
Explain that, please.
Yes. Well, the Cybercab starts production in Texas next year, and it's self-driving. We have so much confidence in the self-driving nature of it that it'll actually not have a steering wheel. It will not have pedals. It'll either self-drive or not drive at all, but it'll self-drive.
President Trump, and I'm going to pass on that, but
Donald Trump also says that Tesla's, quote, a great company. They're American cars. It's American made. He employs thousands of people. He has the most modern plants in the world. And no, Donald Trump is not getting a discount. He says that he wants to pay full price. Said by nobody ever. Donald Trump also says that he knows people that own Teslas. It blows them away and they love them. But one of the biggest statements that I really got out of today from Trump is, quote, I hope buying a Tesla boosts Tesla sales. It was also announced that if you vandalize a Tesla or a Tesla showroom, you will be charged with domestic terrorism, which is, I mean, by definition, what the charge should be, but it really ups the ante from just like a destruction of property to now a domestic terrorism charge. So hopefully a lot of this stops. So for clear reason, Tesla bounced a lot today. I mean, including the move here in after hours, Tesla's stock was up about 4% today. And while it's only a small start, it is a step in the right direction. But how good was this news today about Tesla doubling production in the United States? Well, I guess there's really two ways to look at this, because the Fremont factory in California can produce up to 650,000 vehicles annually, and the Giga Texas factory can produce about 375,000 vehicles annually. So if you're going off of the max production amount, then this is a huge number. So if you're going off of those numbers, you're looking at total production in the United States, let's call it by 2027, 1.85 million vehicles. Now, current capacity for Tesla, if all plants everywhere, as of right now, we're running at max capacity, is 2,350,000 units per year, give or take. Now, assuming we're doubling the production capability, then you'd actually be looking at total deliveries. If nothing else changed, there's no new factories, if production did not get ramped up further in China or Berlin, you'd be looking at up to about 3.375 million units that could be produced by 2027. Now, in 2024, Tesla sold and delivered 233,762 vehicles in the US in 2024. If Tesla doubled that production, you're looking at about 1.26 million vehicles by 2027. Of being at max capacity, like doubling the max capacity, that would put you at total unit volumes by 2027 of 3.375 million, okay? 3,375,000 potential deliveries. Now, if you leave all else equal as it is today, and you just double the amount of Tesla sales for 2024, by 2027, you're going to be looking at almost 3 million. So the difference is about 375,000. both of these numbers are much better than obviously where we are today. And again, if you're using the max production numbers, doubling the max total capacity of Tesla's production in the US by 2027, that would be a total delivery growth over the next 2 years of about 41%, which looks pretty good. And if you go ahead and double the amount of deliveries Tesla did last year by 2027, that would still add about 33% to Tesla's total delivery number by 2027, which is not terrible, but not super good, if that makes sense. I mean, given where the stock is today, I think you're priced for really slow growth. I mean, you've fallen over 50%. Like, I don't think you're priced for great things anymore. So even something like that would be a step in the right direction. Obviously, the thing that's really going to determine what happens to Tesla is not necessarily deliveries. It's margins, it's FSD, specifically robotaxi. As long as that continues to launch, as long as new vehicle models are coming, then deliveries will follow suit, right? A lower, cheaper price Tesla will sell more of them. Okay, so it's margins, it's the Model 2, we'll call it, it's robotaxi, and it's Optimus. Especially in the second half of this year, I think it's going to be a lot more about Optimus and focus on real world AI. When we're going through this correction, nobody gives a crap. I'm gonna try not to cuss as much because I was told not to. Nobody cares about what's going on with a company. Like, Tesla could be doing all the right things, which they are, and the stock still fell 55%. Part of that has to do with algorithms and scary headlines, but a big part of that has to do with recession concerns and this recession scare that is out there, and there's nothing Tesla can do to avoid that pain in the near term. Now, I also think, just for anyone that is curious, another reason why Tesla bounced today is Elon Musk just talked about Tesla. I know that sounds stupid, but a lot of people believe that Elon is working with the government, that he's really not working on Tesla anymore, and Elon just came out and said something that sounds very bullish for Tesla. And that's something we really have not gotten in a while. It's like when everyone thought Alibaba's Jack Ma was dead for months, and then he came out and spoke, and the stock was up like 7% in a day just because he spoke. I don't know if you guys remember that. That was back in 2022 when everyone thought the CCP. Now, we also did have some big news that really helped to boost up the markets and to give Tesla a bit of a boost as well. But as you entered into the last half an hour or so of the trading day today, markets did that pretty typical now end of the day sell-off. Donald Trump says today he does not see a recession at all. If you guys know my stance here on the channel, it's obvious. They are either purposely pushing us into a recession, or ignorantly pushing us into a recession. Either they know about it and that's the design to lower interest rates and kill inflation, or they're just ignorant to what they're doing. I believe they probably know what they're doing, so I don't take that with any substance on face value. Until we see policies that are anti-recessionary, you still gotta believe what the administration is saying. There's gonna be a detox period. There's gonna be a recession coming. Prepare for that now. And that's not my opinion. That's what literally Scott Bessent, the press secretary, has said. That's what Trump has said. Elon has suggested that a recession is coming. Like, I mean, who else do you need to say it? Do you need Powell to come out and say it? I don't know. Let me know. Donald Trump also said today the country is going to boom, and I think it will. I ultimately, even if we go into a bear market during this recession, I don't think it's going to be long lasting. I don't think this is a depression. I wouldn't even say the bear market necessarily ends with a 20% technical bear market. I know some people would say like the bull market is over, but I don't think this is like a, away again, where it takes 4-5 years to get back to a new all-time high. This is not going to be a lost decade, in my opinion. It's going to be a slow grind down and a slow grind up, but it's not going to be years. It's not going to be decades, in my opinion. The country will boom eventually. The silver lining there is, if you're an investor, you have a lot of time to get positioned in this market, to continue to work, continue to make money, continue to put money to work in this market. And you're going to come out rich on the other side of this if you do just that. But remember, the S&P is down 10% from all-time highs, and there will be quote-unquote bear market bounces during this sell-off and on the path towards what the administration says will be a detox period, or AKA recession. You've already seen a very aggressive sell-off. Don't be surprised if we bounce 2 to 4%. And I think part of what did kind of cause the sell-off towards the end of the day, following some of these really good headlines, and there's more good headlines, is Trump saying that the sell-off doesn't concern him, that he doesn't care if the markets sell off. And Trump said this about the sell-off. He said some people will make great deals. Exactly what I say. Some people are going to buy the dip and do very well, and others, well, will not. And Donald Trump goes on to say, we'll have the greatest markets we've ever had. And Trump says that he is very optimistic about the country. Trump says, I think I will talk to Putin this week about the ceasefire agreement that Ukraine has already signed. It is being reported that Ukraine agrees to US-led ceasefire plan if Russia accepts. Quote, Ukraine is ready to start talking and stop shooting. This would be an immediate 30-day ceasefire negotiated by the US. Russia has also since confirmed that they will be speaking with Trump within the next 24 to 48 hours. And Donald Trump reiterates that we just want to cut people who aren't doing the job, meaning government employees that really are not working. And Trump said on Musk, I think he'll know when it's time to stop. Like, stop, cutting government spending, right? Stop reducing the government size. And that's really going to come down to a recession. It's like you're trying to hit a buzzer beater right now. You only got so much time to get down the court. And that's why I think they're so aggressive right now, because cutting off the flow of government money, creating this uncertainty, a trade war, it's only a matter of time before you go into recession. When we're in a recession, Musk can no longer do what he's doing at Doge. That just doesn't work anymore. Canada says if the US moves ahead with imposition of tariffs on March 12th, we will be ready to respond firmly and proportionately. The finance minister spokesperson said this evening. Now, Navarro announces the 50% steel and aluminum tariffs on Canada are canceled, and there will not be implementation of the 50% tomorrow. But the White House says 25% steel and aluminum tariffs will begin at midnight. So instead of 50%, it's 25%. And there will also be no exceptions or exemptions for companies. Trump also said to business leaders around the round table this evening that tariffs may increase beyond 25%. Trump says that they are uncertain if we will reach 1 trillion, but it will be substantial in actually reducing government spending, reducing the deficit. And Trump says that Russia is easier to deal with than Ukraine. Now, there will be a vote from House Republicans Tuesday, so today, for the spending bill to fund the government. And that's another developing story, because on March 15th, the government will shut down if there is not a spending bill that is passed. So just a couple of days, and you're going to have more pressure on the economy, in which you're already in a correction and going through a growth scare. That's kind of the last thing the markets need right now, and something that could sneak up on a lot of people. Now, tomorrow morning, we are going to get our CPI report, but I will point out first, Trueflation typically has an average lead time of about 45 days. So Trueflation happens faster, and then the BLS numbers come out and reflect what the Trueflation said 45 days ago. And you've really seen a plummeting in the Trueflation in the last, couple of weeks. You're now down to about 2%. And that could actually mean that you could get a CPI report that undershoots what markets are expecting tomorrow morning, which would be positive for stocks and for bonds. And a lot of people think if trueflation is actually first, right, with an average lead time of 45 days before it shows up in the BLS numbers, you could be seeing, really, really low CPI numbers by April, May or so that are less than 1%. Here you can see the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland is now casting a monthly CPI print of 0.23% for February, which would get rounded down to 0.2%. An annual CPI to go from 3% down to 2.83%, which would get rounded down to 2.8%. Okay, so that would be pretty good. Core CPI 0.27% month over month and positive 3.16% year over year. It's almost exactly what the markets are pricing for CPI tomorrow. Core is expected at 0.3%. Again, there's the rounding factor, so you could come in at 0.25%, you could come in at 0.34%. There's a big difference between those numbers, but they would still round to 0.3%. So you really don't want to take the face value number tomorrow morning. You really want to see what the decimal point, or where the decimal point is actually at. And that'll tell you whether it's good or bad. Unless there's just obviously like a big drop or a big rise, then that's a problem. Specifically, a big rise, that's really going to bring up fears of stagflation, which is just bad all the way around. Economy's weakening, high inflation, Fed's not able to accommodate until we go into recession. Like, stagflation is the worst possible thing that could happen. And we're going to get a better insight of whether or not that is starting tomorrow morning. Now, core year over year is expected to fall to 3.2%, down from 3.3% in the prior month. Headline CPI month over month is expected at 0.3%. Last month was 0.5%, and year over year headline is expected at 2.9% from 3% last month. And honestly, I think you could probably see numbers come in on the lower side tomorrow, partly because of energy. You've seen oil really sell off in the last month. But there is a weird seasonal effect when it comes to CPI, like we had in 2024. January, February were both really hot, and even March was kind of hot. And it had nothing to do with the actual numbers. It's the adjustments that take place. So tomorrow is February CPI. Could that be a little on the hot side? Potentially. And that's, again, something you kind of got to be on the lookout for, which would definitely put pressure on stocks. Besides that, we do have a 10-year bond auction tomorrow as well. If that has good demand, people want to buy it up. Banks mostly, want to buy it up and the yields fall, then that is going to help bring down 10-year treasury yields and, well, cause something like a TLT to rise, which has a negative correlation these days with stocks, but doesn't always have to be the case. Nowadays, TLT goes up, stocks go down. TLT goes down, stocks go up. That's like a normal correlation, but let's assume the inflation report comes in really good tomorrow. Bonds are going to go up and stocks are going to go up. Like, that was the correlation for a long time. And that's why the 60-40 portfolio really didn't work for the last couple of years, because they would move together, right? Bonds would go up, stocks would go up. Bonds would go down, stocks would go down. That's not the case anymore. You really have a normalization in the function of bonds and stocks these days. So we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts on CPI and your predictions down below in the comment section. We do have some earnings coming out tomorrow as well. Pre-market, you have iRobot and Zim, Arcos, Dorados as well. Wednesday and after hours, Adobe, UiPath, Centennial One, Crown Castle, American Eagle Outfitters. Thursday, pre-market, Dollar General. I think that's going to be one of the more important earnings because it'll tell you, is the consumer doing better? Especially the lower income consumers. Are they starting to recover? That could be good, although we've really just heard bad things from retailers this earnings season, so I'm not super optimistic, even though I own quite a bit of Dollar General. Thursday, DocuSign, Ulta, and Semtech will report earnings in after hours. Ladies and gentlemen, again, with that said, the S&P fell about 10% from peak to trough, and it almost instantly, when you hit that 10% correction, you bounced. I think a lot of that really has to do with the algorithms, right? They started to buy as soon as you hit 10% down. I don't think that really matters all too much, in my opinion. CPI is going to decide what happens next, whether we go deeper into a correction or whether we do get a little bit of a bounce here. I would not be surprised if we did bounce, but we are also getting pretty close to the 300-day moving average. 300-day moving average sits at about 545. And I mean, from current levels, that would be downside of about 1.9%. Could you hit that and then bounce? Potentially. But until the administration backs off the trade war, until Doge stops, reducing a bunch of government spending, which, again, I think they should be doing that. Long term, it's good for the country. But until those things stop and we get some clarity on policy, we get the government funded, it's going to be difficult to kind of rally with that backdrop, because almost all of Trump's policies either boost inflation or weaken the economy, or both. Like, there's not much of a backdrop from Washington to be bullish on this market. That's not my perspective. That's just literally what Wall Street is saying right now. And you've even got Citi that came out and downgraded stocks to neutral today. And I think you're going to get a lot more of that happening. And I think analysts are going to start lowering their projections for economic activity this year and lowering their price targets on our markets. And that's kind of the next wave of not euphoria, but the opposite of euphoria, panic, if you will, that could come to our markets when analysts actually start to bring down those targets. And none of that has really happened yet. And historically, when analysts start to bring down their targets is really when you get a lot of that selling. And then when they all get bearish is usually a pretty telltale sign of the bottom. So I don't think this is the ultimate bottom for markets. I think we do go lower. Tactically, though, we could bounce. And don't be surprised if we do bounce if CPI comes in good tomorrow morning, or we get one or two good headlines. That's what kind of happened today before that end of the day sell-off happened again. Same goes for Tesla. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if the stock bounced back to that 250 level, right? Another 20 bucks higher from here. That's an 8% move higher. I wouldn't be surprised if the stock sold off a bit more and then bounced. But eventually we will get a bounce. Like, this is the fastest sell-off in Tesla's history. This is one of the fastest sell-offs in stock market history. You're going to bounce at some point, right? And just comparing this to like 2022 is like, damn. I mean, you're going down at a violent trajectory. Okay, and it does not look pretty. Even in the beginning of 2022, you bounced like long before you were down this far, right? 2022, you only fell like 7% before getting a bounce. I guess it was like 8% or so, and then you bounced the first time, then you came back down. We haven't really bounced yet at all. So let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comment section. Ladies and gentlemen, have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.